Go ahead.
Hello and welcome to another great show today. Angie just hit me on the spot. I am joined with Angie, and we have our special guest, Mark King. Oh, I can see myself.
Yes! Now we're better.
Right, now we're better. Today we're going to discuss a mentoring program that Mark that is a director of in one of the school systems. I don't know if Angie want to touch on some news first, because you know you always got the juicy news.
We may leave that for the ending.
We're going to dive. Wait a minute, you don't never try to leave it for the end point.
No.
Okay, all right. So we're going.
You just have a great show today. We're going to just make sure that we highlight, as we always do every Tuesday, community leaders that are doing great things. We do have another guest that will be joining us, that we're going to be talking about the political part of it, as well as another community leader. So I'm just excited, and I'm sitting here ready to hear all about Mark's ambitions and the things that he's doing in the community. So we're going to throw it right on over to you.
So I just go? Just no question. Just go for it. Okay.
So no, I was going to say, if you can just introduce yourself, is what she was saying earlier.
Right.
You can just introduce yourself to everyone. And,
so am I supposed to look at you? I'm just going to go. So
we just having a casual
conversation. Let the camera came on. He's like, which way?
Right.
So, just talk to us.
So my name is Mark King. I'm an educator in Baltimore City Public Schools. I'm a paraeducator. So not quite a teacher, and I really don't want to be in the classroom. I feel like it's too limiting for
we heard that a lot.
The goals that I want to accomplish. And what I'm doing, or why I'm here, I guess, is because I'm the director of a mentoring group that was founded at Baltimore City College. The Baltimore City College.
Yes, put that out there.
Oh, God.
It was founded about 10 years ago. I forget the principal's name at the time, but the name of the program is A Few Good Men. We currently have somewhere between 40 and 50 members. When I took over the program back in December of 2018, we had 6 members, and then by the end of March, I think we had like 41.
That's amazing.
41 members. So the goal, as it was originally formed, was just to help young black boys matriculate through Baltimore City College and get through the curriculum, because coming out of most public middle schools in Baltimore, going to city, it's a shock.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm an example of that. Coming out of East Baltimore, I went to what was then Hampstead, which is now Highlandtown or something. You know, going to city was. Well, I didn't even go to city first. Let me back up a little bit.
I don't want to hear about city, but okay.
So
you want to hear about it today?
Yeah, you definitely going to hear all about it. So I went to Walbrook Senior High freshman year, and I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of detail, but I managed to have a 99.9 average. They wouldn't give me the 100. Anyway, never took any books home, any of that, and was surprised he was able to keep that average, and then transferred, because I thought to myself, I was like, man, high school not supposed to be this easy. It just can't be. So my older cousin went to city. I was like, I saw the band. I was like, boom, that's where I want to go.
Yes.
So transferred to city and immediately almost flunked out. Went from a 99 average to a 66.
That was about all of us.
Yeah. So got a letter from the National Honor Society. He was like, yeah, you got 1 semester to bring this up. City sent the letter home and gave me a letter in my hand. Like, yeah, you got 1 quarter to get your act together. And went from a 66 to an 85. And then, anyway, went through city and graduated with honors, did a whole bunch of stuff during that time. Anyway, my purpose of accepting the role of taking over A Few Good Men is there's a underserved need to help assist black boys in excelling in Baltimore City.
Absolutely.
And I think my passion is in education, so that's where I chose to dive in. And my goal, a lot of people ask me what my goal is. I can tell you short-term goals all day long, but my primary goal is to not be needed. I want to get to a
That's a
space
great
where,
answer.
Exactly.
especially black boys don't need me. I would love to be in a space where black boys and black girls don't need any assistance
Right.
whatsoever. But my focus is definitely on black boys.
So what do you think are some of the challenges for the black young men that are in school?
Especially transitioning from middle school to high school.
Just being here in Baltimore City.
Outside of the stereotypical things of not having a male figure in the home, because that's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Representation matters. You don't see a lot of black men in education.
That's true.
You may see them, from our end. They work at North Avenue or wherever they be. They may be social workers, but you don't see a lot of black men in teaching roles. And then when you see them, their roles may be repetitive, whether they be in one subject from one school to the next, but you don't see them across the board.
Right.
So I can count on one hand the amount of black male teachers I had from kindergarten to high school.
Yeah, I was just trying to think in my head now.
Yeah,
it wasn't that many.
So by the time you get to city,
I can remember just one.
you have a bunch of white women.
Right.
A bunch of white women for the most part. Black men represent less than 1% of teachers in the United States. So that's kind of disheartening. So I think a lot of black men don't go into education because we've been so underrepresented for so long. That's not something that a typical father teaches his son, especially in NC. Man, you should be a teacher.
Right.
But that's what we need.
Right.
We need to see black men being teachers.
Exactly.
We can't have the only male teacher a young man has is his father or his grandfather or his uncle. They need to feel that in the classroom there's somebody that looks like me, that understands me, that wants to help me excel. And I think that's been a part of my success. I worked in the library when I was at City. And by the time I left City, there were students asking me all year, Mr. King, what you doing in the library? You don't belong in here. And at first I really didn't understand what they meant. And it wasn't until there were teachers coming up to me and students that were really introverted. They really wouldn't talk to many people. And I didn't know because they always talked to me.
Right.
I didn't have the problem to have that situation with those students. And they were going to teachers, and teacher was coming up to me. Shout out to Miss Lust, I love her. She would come up to me and she would say, she told me, she was like, I'm going to tell you what so-and-so said to me. I was like, oh God, here we go. And she was like, oh no, it's definitely not a bad thing. She said, why is Mr. King in the library? She was like, well, what do you mean? She was like, he just doesn't belong there. Like he's too good with the rest of the students. Like he doesn't belong in there. And that's heartwarming, and I feel that. And so I don't want to limit myself. No disrespect to teachers.
Yes.
I just don't want to limit myself to a classroom.
No,
in any role in any school that I'm in, I have to be able to be in contact with like the entire student body. Students need to have access to me, and I need to have access to them.
So I know you started out at City with the program, and now you're in a new school. So how was that transition, and how is that going?
The transition was easy for me. I'm under great tutelage. Principal Mozan is an awesome principal. She definitely shares my enthusiasm with wanting to help black boys. I think our student population at NACA is above 95% black. So in 3 weeks, I'm able to see how some students are affected by not only having a new principal, but with also my impact there.
Because I'm familiar with the school.
Is this my first year
there?
No,
the principal.
Yes, this is my first year
Okay. Yeah, my daughter, my oldest one, she attended NACA too. She actually attended NACA 1 and 2. So I'm
really? Okay.
With it.
Okay, so the situation is brand new for me from this side of the ball. I come from a school that's a middle school, I would say, that was similar to NACA. I mean, our student population, I don't think it's 400 kids. And City was 1,500 or something like that. So dealing with, it's 6th to 12th grade. So dealing with less than 400 kids, and you have, 6 to 12.
All of these grades.
Yeah.
I get to, it's like I'm learning names really, really quickly, and students are seeing me, and when they don't see me, Where's Mr. King at?
Right.
You know,
so
and
it's like more personal.
Yeah. So and then it's a population that I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that's not desirable for a teacher if they just coming out of whatever college and they want to teach. They're not gonna. I want to go there.
Right.
You know, but this is where I'm not going to say these kids need me more. It's just a difference, and I can see that difference, and I want to serve that difference.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Kids at City, a lot of their parents are in the PTA. They doing this, they doing that. Where these parents may not have that time to do that. You know, so if I can step in and not fill a void, but serve a purpose for you, let me do that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
I don't want to just be. I only talk to Mr. King about, you know, when I'm in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, my goal is to. You need help with doing this paper in English class, or you need to talk to me about whatever, or Mr. King, I need some pants, or Mr. King, I didn't eat today. You know, I want to be a resource. You know, so that's what I'm transitioning a few good men into.
And
that's
outside
what I was
getting ready to ask
group.
you. So a few good men. So you're gonna eventually turn that into a nonprofit. Like,
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. It may be a different name, but that's the premise. So I already had my idea for my nonprofit way before I came back to Baltimore. I was in Atlanta for 17 years and I already had my idea.
Oh, wow.
So I don't want somebody to think, like,
well,
he's taking
welcome back. We are happy to have you here. So I think with the we talk about kind of the culture, and you kind of made a good point. With city versus NACA, the parent involvement,
It's a
just
big difference.
the difference here, right? And I think that's what we look at, even with, I don't know if I had mentioned it, but I am running for city council. And that is one of the things I look at even, and I think with every district, they have communities inside of a community.
Absolutely.
Right? And one community on one side is the resources needed is one way, and the other one's
totally
I
different.
love the fact that you were able to maneuver around both.
Right.
And that means you understand.
Right.
In my eyes, it means that you understand what's needed. It means that you are aware, alert.
Absolutely.
What they say, you woke.
That over.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, right. But I want to acknowledge that, and also, I'm not sure if Tasha had mentioned, but the RTV radio show, it stands for Restoring the Village, and it's exactly what you're doing.
I'm trying.
Being a resource,
Exactly.
you are doing.
Yeah.
Being a resource in our community, and understanding that, you know, not even the title, A Few Good Men. You know, we know that you're going to be building off of that. I don't know how many is already, but your vision shows the men taking in charge of that.
And we definitely need that in our communities.
Yes. I want to also shout out, because I'm listening while I'm sharing.
Okay.
But I want to also acknowledge that, yes, we do not see a lot of the black men in our school systems, but I do want to shout out the initiatives that have been taken this last school year where they are, and there has been an increase. They're trying to do that male retention where the black teachers and black staff members just being involved in the school system is what they're trying to do, and they have increased that. And I want to acknowledge. I want to also know that a lot of things that we're seeing in our community is definitely, it didn't happen overnight and it's not going to be fixed overnight.
Absolutely.
So, you know, just
it's a long road.
stay on the course, and,
yeah.
and I acknowledge everything that you're doing.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm not.
Yeah, so don't go back to Atlanta.
I'm not going anywhere.
It didn't happen there because it wasn't meant to be at.
And you know what? The funny thing is, so when I was trying to get my nonprofit going in Atlanta, it just wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it's like
for
something
whatever-
It wasn't meant.
Yeah, it just wouldn't happen. And,
That's how it goes, though.
Yes.
and it's kind of jaw dropping to come back and find myself in this space exactly where I wanted to be.
Right.
But now I'm here home doing
Where
it. And
you're supposed to be.
on the heels of Freddie Gray, I wanted to come back, and I kind of felt bad. I was like, I can't do what I want to do in Atlanta first and not start at home first.
Right,
I felt like I would have
exactly.
been betraying myself.
Exactly.
You know, and shout out to Atlanta. I love Atlanta. But I had to get this started here first and
right.
And maybe
make sure it's up the ground. Yeah, it's gonna go.
Yeah.
It's gonna go. I'm not gonna stop. Next stop is
Yeah, because I see this being something big.
so the next stop from here is either New York or Atlanta.
Okay.
So you mentioned Freddie Gray, and I'm going to hit on it a little bit because I always like to hear everyone's perspective behind it. You said basically it may have ignited something in you.
Absolutely.
So could you speak on that? And also just also speak on how you even see our youth being affected by that.
So, growing up in East Baltimore, down the hill, shout out to everybody.
Shout out down the hill. He doing shout out. What?
I'm sorry.
She is somewhere else, okay? You know, then she been. Okay, go ahead. We're going to talk about this after the show.
Growing up in East Baltimore, being a teenager in the 90s, I've been a victim of police brutality. And
wow.
Having gone through that, barely is 13. I had 8 officers pull up on me.
Wow.
And everybody had their gun in my face. I mean,
wow.
Like where you are and they right here, you know. And having dealt with, I never told my mother about that. Never. You know, at 13, I immediately compartmentalized that.
Right.
You said you were 13.
13.
Right.
13, and immediately something like I guess that survival instinct. Like I had to compartmentalize. I can't tell my mom that because I don't want her
to
worry.
Worry.
Telling her probably, I don't know what it would do. I just compartmentalized it. And having encounters with the police since then. You know, I'm almost 40 and it's
still happening.
You know what I mean? So my goal is to give as much information as I can to this next generation and others in my generation or whoever may need it. Equip them with the tools necessary to navigate your way so you get home safe. You know, and I'm not talking about just do whatever the police officers say, because we say that that even doesn't mean anything. You know what I'm saying? Not all the time. I'm not saying all police are bad and all guys who are victims of police brutality are completely innocent. You know, there are extreme circumstances in both cases. But what good is knowledge if you're not giving the information to someone? You know, if I know how to survive out here, how am I benefiting the next generation if I'm not telling them?
Absolutely.
You know, so
and I think it's needed because I remember my son, he actually did come home to me when he first had his interaction with police. I think he's almost 20, so I think he was like 14, 15. And him and his homeboys, they was walking somewhere and the police, they just came out of nowhere. I guess they was looking for someone else.
Yes,
my son fit the description.
Fit the description.
What's the description? Being black in Baltimore. I'm just saying.
You want me to tell you what the police told me? Why they had their guns in my face?
Yeah.
You fit the script. You got on the first down coat. You're a black male. You between.
That's what I said. What is the description?
You between 5'5" and 6'1" and about 160 pounds. I was like, officer, I'm 120. And I'm walking a dog.
Right.
What car did I just jump out of?
Exactly.
But at 13, I was that calm to say that with guns.
And my son, and I was getting ready to say, my son, he was calm. He stayed calm. And he was like, I want to go into my pocket to call my mother because I am a minor to let her know what's going on. Yeah. So he was able to do that. They let him go because he kept on being calm, like, I have not done anything. Yeah. Me and my friends are riding our bikes. I don't understand why y'all stopped us. So, and then he had me on the phone. I was like, just stay calm and let them do whatever. But they let him go.
That's a tough situation.
Yeah,
Also put his hand in my coat, right? Unbutton my coat. It's January. Unbutton my first down. Why your heart beating so fast? I was like, y'all got guns in my face. Yeah. That was like my first out-of-body experience. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to say right now. I don't.
Right.
Well, where you just coming from? I'm walking the dog. That's my homeboy's dog. I'm like, I'm walking the dog. Well, we just saw you hop out of a car. Nah. Right. You did it.
So the trauma, and this is it's going to kind of even go into when we have our other guest that's going to come on the show. But I'm glad that you even brought it up before we even knew the topic. But the police misconduct, the police brutality that's going on, the trauma that it has caused. Yesterday we were at City Hall where they're trying to pass a bill to end the gag order. And we're going to talk about that more. But my point was that everybody that came on with their testimony had some, I don't need to use the word amazing, but they had some very strong testimonies that was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
The stories, the graphics, this is something, the things I heard and how I heard it, it was something that they will never forget. It's traumatizing.
I mean, when you see one of your good friends being beat by the police and you can't
do nothing.
It's like being castrated with your hands cuffed.
Right.
You know what I mean? What do you like? If I jump in, I know I'm dying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, like if I let them do that, then you may be okay.
Right.
Right? If I know if I jump in, then one of us is dying.
And
it's
that we have to think that.
What are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
Right.
That's just like me when I say I'm running for city council. I too had my husband was murdered. It wasn't murdered through a police, but it's still the trauma there. And then also hearing other stories of those that have lost their loved ones through police brutality. Like I said, all of that is that whole traumatizing thing, and that's why I asked about the whole Freddie Gray and what ignited you, because it's always something that ignites someone to continue to go and fight.
Right.
Because it's something to simply just say, that's it, I can't, I'm going to Atlanta,
Right.
I'm going. Also, as you just stated, it feels like my hands are tied behind my back and like, what can I do? Because even if I get into a position, there are 14 seats, and if we don't have the right people in the seats, it's like an uphill battle.
Exactly.
So that's a whole nother story. But what I'm saying is that I understand when you say it feels like my hands,
Right.
are just pretty much tied, and they're just killing us. And we see that every day when we have 200-something murders, homicides. That is heartbreaking when you're just sitting there like, what can we do? We're simply just watching them kill us.
Right.
Exactly.
And watching us, and when I say us, them, it's just speaking on everything. Us killing us, who knows who's involved with what, the corruption, it's so messy right now.
Yeah.
It is.
So
I mean, we just have a lot of we have a lot of issues. A lot.
There's a lot. So
of issues.
we don't know exactly what's going on, how it's going. We just know that it's overwhelming.
happening.
It's
Yeah.
overwhelming right now.
So I mean, so my goal with me is if I can bring some light to a black boy's life, then I'm gonna do that.
Yes.
I'm gonna do it. I mean, I don't care what I have to sacrifice. I'll do that. I'll do that.
So we are going to probably take a small break. We're going to bring on our second guest. But I am going to also put the number out as well if anyone had any questions. 404-436-1277. I do see a lot of people are viewing in. If you have questions, we'll answer it online as well. But when we come back, we're going to continue our story interview with Mark, as well as having our next guest, Tawanda Jones. We're going to continue this talk about our black men in the community, as well as police brutality and just other things that we can do to be a solution in our city. So we'll be right back after a small commercial break. I started Restoring a Village off of the strength of being a widow, losing a husband, and just wanting to make a difference. We wanted to do a holistic approach, and so Restoring the Village was started, and it was a pop-up that God just put a vision in my heart and just said, do it. And so my biggest thing is being obedient and doing it, even if it doesn't make sense to me. We have a great team, about 7 core members, and we have over 200 community partnerships, and those partnerships are churches, they're agencies, they're community association, nonprofits, they're everyone. They're leaders, community leaders without even a community association. It's just they're leaders. And so I love talking to people. I love meeting new people. And that's just how it goes. It's like a cluster. You just keep on building and building and building. Then I have different community partnerships that they help with just jobs. Like I know my lane. My lane is connecting. And so we have other people that help with jobs, and we have other people that help with missing children. You know, we have people that has their own niche, and we just want them to feel a part. So I just connect them. And shout out to Diamond K. He's very influential in the community, offering platforms. I started Restoring the RTV Project radio show as just a way of getting information out to the community. It could be so many things that can go on, but what we want to do is only solely work and focus on the positive. And so that's all that Restoring the Village is doing. Everything on there is positive, and there's no negativity. We've lost that communication. And so I love when people actually come on and actually can talk to people and let them know what they're doing and why they should support them, you know, and how they can be supported. So I just think that loving on one another is the best thing that we could do right now. I would love to see, you know, more people getting involved in their communities. And again, that's, you know, kind of off, but getting more involved in the community is the best thing that we can do. I'm totally not against police officers. Of course, we know there's some good and bad with anything and anybody. I want to really, truly make a difference. I'm running the same district that my husband was murdered in. And that right there shows strength. It shows that we can recover from anything. And it's not to say recover, but we can conquer anything. And you can make a difference even in your brokenness. Hello, we are back. I hope that everyone stayed tuned and they're still here. I'm going to share some more to make sure that we keep our viewers. Please make sure that you share it, because we have a lot that's going on in the show. Anyone who missed it, we just had Mark King on, and he has been dropping jewels. That's what they call it.
Yes.
You hit on like the police brutality, and I just wanted to just introduce our next guest, and we're going to continue this. We're about to make this a round table, actually. I just didn't want to like let him go, because it's like he has it. He understands. So talking about the police brutality, talking about black young men, we do have our next guest on the show is Miss Tawanda Jones. She's an advocate, and she fights tremendously, like helping everyone in the community in general, but also just against police brutality, helping with our young black men. When we talked about just being targeted is what you basically was saying. Mm-hmm. We talk about why, our reasons why. I'm going to let her explain her why, because I don't want to tell the story and miss anything, but there's a really good reason. Well, I don't say good, but there's a really strong reason of why she's pushing the way that she is. And I want to introduce you again to Tawanda Jones, and if you can explain to everyone exactly what you're doing in the community and what has inspired you to start it.
First of all, I want to thank you for having me on this show. And hi, everyone.
Hey, welcome.
Oh, damn, I didn't say thank you.
Well, you're still here.
But basically, what inspired me to do the work is my big brother. I lost him. He was brutally murdered in Baltimore City by 11 to 15 police officers, like executed in broad daylight. Like video footage was out, people had cell phones out, everything, the whole shebang. He asked to borrow my vehicle. At the time it was a green Mercedes-Benz, and something that I thought would keep him safe ultimately got him targeted, and ultimately he was murdered just because being black while driving in America, just doing a good deed. And he had asked me that day, like literally he had picked me, he had worked he was a worker. Like, and so he worked his job, and then the schedule he had was beautiful because it went well with my schedule. I teach all summer, even summer camp. I'm a teacher now.
Okay.
And long story short, that morning he picked me up. Well, I picked him up. I drove to his house and we switched seats because he was like, sis, let me drive a Mercedes-Benz. He was just so excited about driving my car, and I was excited to have him driving it. And then he was like, well, sis, I'm going to go to work. And that day he only worked a half a day because he had other errands he had to take care of.
Okay.
So he was like, I'm getting off in the afternoon, but I'll be at your job at 5:30. I'm like, all right, cool. Long story short, he come picked me up. And the saddest part is we had an excellent officer in my classroom that day. I'll never forget it. It was just like so real. Like, we had a good officer which was my co-teacher's husband. He does ministry, he gives back, and he's a good officer, you know. So long story short, he was there and he was talking to the children about being safe in the summer. And I remember going to the car, and I had this thing called a dad bear that he had from his district. So I had this bear. My brother was like, what you doing with a teddy bear, sis? And I was telling him about the officer. And he thought it was so cool. He was like, oh my God, Officer Friendly still exists. I'm like, yeah. He was amazing. He was like, that's good, sis. So that sparked the conversation because Trayvon Martin verdict had just came in that Saturday, and it discussed me and my brother both. So he started saying, yeah, well, that's good, especially considering what happened on Saturday with that verdict. And I was like, yeah. And then he said, well, sis, we got to worry about all the George Zimmermans in our community. And I'm in my mind like, that's deep, brother. Could you elaborate? So at this moment, he got a phone call from a young lady in need of a ride. She was stranded. So he was like, sis, do you mind if I borrow your vehicle and go get her? I was like, sure, long as you get your niece tonight. Because my daughter was working a McDonald's job. I'm like, long as you get her, you good. You got to call all night. So long story short, I'm not lying, within a half an hour, my brother was executed. I mean, to the point I literally, like, at exactly 7 o'clock, I'm feeling all type of pain in my neck to the point I fell off my bed. My family thinking I'm going nuts. I'm crying. I'm like, what in the world? So I'm thinking I need medical treatment. I'm like, am I having a stroke? Like, I never experienced that type of pain. But then when it stopped after like 10 or 15 minutes, I'm like, oh my God, this is so real. Like, what's up? So instantly my heart just like my brother. Like, it was one of those so real moments. So when I called his cell phone, he didn't answer. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm starting to freak out. Then I'm freaking everybody in my house out, my family, like, me calm down. So at the time I sent my fiance, I'm like, could you go and just see if he was like, he probably at his house sleep now, whatever. He probably done picked the young lady up. He probably now his phone probably dead. I'm like, well, look, you need to get down there to give me a peace of mind. You know, until you lay eyes on my car and him, I'm not good. Like, I feel like something bad is happening. I feel like God is trying to tell my spirit something. So long story short, when he went down his house, he was like, he not here, and I'm steady freaking out. So now I'm calling my family members. They're like, well, what you think is wrong? So maybe I don't know. Like, I know something's not right. It was to the point, literally, now it's like 8:30ish. I'm calling my daughter. I'm like, look, something bad happened to your uncle. She like, oh my God, what? I said, I don't know. She like, hi, I'm calling her at work. That sound crazy, right? You calling upsetting somebody at work. She's crying. I'm like, look, I gotta go. She said, well, how I'm going? I said, we'll figure it out. I said, but he's not coming. Everybody thought I was losing my mind. Long story short, exactly 10 o'clock on the news, I'm studying talking to my aunt. We praying on the phone. They done called different hospitals. They done called like the police department, different police stations, you know, things like that in our community, trying to figure out where my brother is, what was wrong. And then I'll never forget that moment when my fiance walked in my room, and because by then someone called, his cousins and them called his cell phone and was telling him, look at the news, oh my God, her brother just got killed by the police, her green Mercedes Benz is in the middle of the street, like, look. So long story short, all I could just hear him say, they killed your brother, you was right. And I'm like, what? I'm still talking to my aunt, and I just remember like dropping my phone, like, what in the world? And then when I saw my TV on the TV screen, my brother laying dead on the gurney, lifeless. I see my green Mercedes Benz. I see the bottle of water that we were just eating dinner at a local restaurant on the top of my car. I lost it. Like, at that moment, I ain't want to hear nothing about God. I ain't want to hear nothing about nothing. And I promise you that if I didn't have kids, I don't know what, I might have been on suicidal watch. Like, my life was over with. But then at that moment, I just never forget when I was laying there crying and like, God, how could you do this? We just had a church sermon Sunday. Like, none of us are saints, but he was in church Sunday with me. Like, he loved going to church. Like, why would you let? And he said, hold up, you got work to do. you know, Tyrone, he didn't suffer. You got work to do. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, and so I got up, I said, God forgive me. And I'm like, what do you mean? But after that, I couldn't talk. I couldn't speak. We had like a member from my family that would always like come talk to the reporters. I couldn't say, I was in silence. Like I was like, I was dead. Like I was living, but I was dead. Like I'm walking around like dead. Like my mind going like this. So when they took my brother, they didn't just take like just my brother. Like he was like a father figure. This is my older brother. He raised me. He was my best friend. He was my everything. The first grandbaby. He was only 44 when he was murdered, brutally murdered, and to lose his life like that. And I had to be the one to call his kids and tell his kids some horrible news. And then mind you, and it made me reflect. And when you be traumatized, I remember giving my sister here that call. I hadn't had to do that in years. And I'm like, I gotta make another call and tell somebody.
Tawanda gonna have us here at this table with Kleenex.
Oh my God!
I'm like, why are you choosing me, God, to call people and tell them some horrible things, that I can't even take? So once I did that, long story short, got over that, and then finally once I was able to go to counseling because I had to. That was important. I thank big ups to Roberta House because they was the one. Yes, they are amazing. Miss Kim, shout out. Monique, shout out. They put my life back and they was like, look, this your new life. Your old life gone, this your new life. You know what I'm saying? You got to move forward, write it down, get it out. And once I got it out, you can't shut me up.
I was gonna say, at
that moment, I realized. So then, as my family got together, we like, no, immediately, like the very next day after he was murdered, my whole family being a strong net family, we got together like, they got the wrong man but the right family. This ain't going down. So immediately, I'm like just listening to God because I let God direct my path. As a Christian woman, I'm like, God, what you want me to do? You said I got work. So immediately he tells me to record these jokers walking in my family house. Everybody nervous like, what you doing? You can't. I'm recording. They're telling me and my family what my brother's autopsy was going to say. His body's still at the morgue. They're like, look, we got his body at the medical examiner's office. His autopsy is going to be done around 2:30. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. They're like, but we just want to let you know, we want to make sure Mr. West didn't have a bad heart. We want to make sure he wasn't dehydrated. We want to make sure that the weather didn't contribute to Mr. West's death. And I'm like, well, he was healthy, blah, blah, blah. He just had a physical because he got a promotion on his job and they gave him a physical. Like, they ain't want none of that. Then they even lied and said, well, Miss Jones, your car's on drug call. I said, well, look, I don't give a damn about the car, but why would my car be on drug code? I don't use drugs. My brother didn't have drugs, and I'm quite sure the female he put in my car wouldn't have drugs. He wouldn't do that to me. So what are you talking about? What drugs? So long story short, all those was lies. And so as we get deeper into the surface of everything, and then we started a space called West Wednesday, where now this week will be 320 weeks dedication. I don't care if it's a snowstorm. And snowstorm, people know I call out. I don't drive in the snow. I will call out from work. But you better bet it. I will walk to a West Wednesday in a blizzard and stand out there because that's detrimental importance. And it's not just about my brother. It's about you. It's about all of us. It can happen to anybody. You know what I'm saying? It's deeper. So what they try to do is make things seem isolated, like there's something over here when it's all together. It's systemically happening, and it's not a Baltimore thing. It's happening worldwide, nationwide, and it's happening mostly to our people. So that's why. So when I'm out there, I'm not just talking about Tyrone West. I'm talking about Freddie Gray. I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about the unknown victims that, God forbid, they didn't even make it on a national level that nobody's talking about. I'm holding their names up too. I'm holding the ones that they claimed that had weapons in their hands that they blamed them for their own death. But yet it's interesting, terrorists, white terrorists can walk to accountability with a bulletproof vest and a burqa. So I don't even want to hear that foolishness.
Can you talk more about West Wednesdays? Because this is my first time hearing.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So this is good.
So basically, West Wednesday started, like I said, and it actually started on a Thursday. My brother was killed. My brother was killed, on a Wednesday, and we started that Thursday. And then, we started, being out. So we went down, to City Hall. We're going to demand these elected officials. We're going to hold them accountable. Why isn't the mayor at our house? Because we remember when Anthony Anderson was brutally murdered. murdered. The mayor went there as well as the commissioner. They went to take them the autopsy to his hand, say it was a homicide. I'm like, my brother was murdered. We were going around chasing people that should have been coming to my family. You get what I'm saying? So immediately we were out. So then that Wednesday we went out and we just kept being out there. And we're like, you know what? By the third Wednesday, we're like, you know what? Let's name this thing after my brother. Because one of the people that was coming out there, I'll never forget, CZ Witherspoons and his wife was coming out there with us, and Payune from Baltimore Block, they were coming out there with us, and so many community folks with us at the moments when I couldn't speak. Like I couldn't speak for weeks. So and I'll never forget, CD wife said, you know what? She gave us the idea. She said, you know what? This is sacred grounds. Y'all might want to name this something like this. And we like, wait a minute, West Wednesday. And then like literally we out there, because my point is we're more than hashtags and body bags.
Absolutely.
We're more than being 6 feet in the dirt and pictures and buttons on t-shirts. Our lives matter.
Right.
And so if you put that sign down, you putting your loved one down. You're allowing them to do any and everything to you. Because they know that people, when something happens, people going to turn up, they're going to be hyped. But after that, then that's it. It's on with the next victim.
Absolutely.
On to another story. So.
Woo!
I mean, you just
And that space is open for all the victims
Open
of
for all,
police
yes.
brutality, and not just police brutality, community violence, because I won't dare call it black on black crime. I hate when people use that term, and a lot of us don't know, because I used to too use that term, black on black. But then I started thinking about it. The more I think about it and scratch my head, I'm like, hold up, Caucasians kill Caucasians. That ain't Caucasian on Caucasian crime.
Right.
Asians
No
kill
label.
Asians. That's not Asian on Asian crime.
Any
Why is
community
it
is
black?
just like that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's community violence. You
Right.
get what I'm saying? But it's another way to smack us in the face and say, hey, young man, pull your pants up. Y'all stop killing each other, and then y'all life will matter.
Right.
The same way they treat people in Federal Hill, they need to worry about down the hill, up the hill, and everywhere.
Right,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're right on time, because right before you came in, like Angie, I know you post about celebrating your husband today. I lost a best friend 18 years ago. He was murdered in Baltimore too, and his birthday is Wednesday. So it's like, yeah, it's a lot to deal with. I know every year, like, it gets harder and harder for me, because Wednesday he would be 40. Would have been 40. So it's like, it's hard, and he was brutally murdered. Like, still to this day, they didn't catch who did it or anything. They just found his body on the streets, like beaten to death. So
sorry.
it's hard. Like, and I'm like, when will the killing stop? Like, it's just constant all the time. Like, there's moments that I was like, I just want to leave Baltimore altogether. Like, but then it's like, it's something that just keep on keeping me here. Like, no, you got something to do. Like, you need to do something. You need to use your voice. So.
Well, I'm glad that everyone here at this table is using their voice.
Right.
And I am so grateful for Mark using his talent and gift, God-given gift, to connect with our young men, to talk about the things that are not comfortable. It's something that we don't want to talk about, but there are things that you need to know and say, basically, if a police officer is approaching you, we shouldn't have these conversations, but we have to have the conversation.
We definitely
and so I appreciate and I applaud you for having that. I applaud you, Tawanda, for speaking out just every week. That right there, when we talk about the trauma, we also are talking about things that have to remind you over and over of the situation. Even today, you're telling the story of what happened. And as she stated, today is a day that my husband died on the 17th, and we buried him on the 25th, and next week we're going to be honoring all the murder victims. So we're going to be actually holding a gathering over at Loch Raven and Cold Spring, and I'm asking everyone to come out so we can say the names of all of the murder victims, because as she stated, it's more than just a number and more than just a hashtag, but we need to make sure that we uplift them and know that their lives matter, that their death was not in vain. My husband, has been years, but there's not a day to go by that I know I'm not pushing for him. Tawanda, my sister, she did. The day that I received the call about my husband didn't die right away, but the moment that I got the call that my husband was stabbed, she was the one who delivered that phone call to me. And we had disconnected because, as she just stated, when you're going through, you disconnect.
You do.
You move. you isolate yourself.
Yeah,
you're numb.
It's like an out of body experience.
And what she stated, just being involved, just existing, and she said something so powerful that I know even happens with me is that if I didn't have a child, I wouldn't be here.
Yes, this is like
it's yes, it is very much. You got to be either a purpose, a purpose there. And at that moment, I lost hope in God. I lost everything because I couldn't believe what happened. But if it had not been for my child, I would have I would have checked out. And I say that often because I know someone else needs to hear that. We do have about 5 minutes, and I do have announcements at the end. Sorry, this was a really good show. But I do want to just say, when we talked about what the thing she's doing the West Wednesday. So if you can support the West Wednesdays, that is going to be tremendous because there are more people that need to talk about it. And speaking about talking about it, because I think we both was the quiet ones, and we both now like some vocal sisters.
Y'all can't stop.
And God connected us through school when we were talking to youth, and we were looking like, well, we know each other.
I was like, I know. And the crazy part, like, I've been looking for her forever because I've been checking in, like, on my stepfather side of the family. Like, how's Angie doing?
Crazy.
She's doing so good. And like, because I just remember like this young Angie.
I was quiet.
She was like a teenager. I remember when she was a teenager. You know what I'm saying? And I was a teenage parent. You get what I'm saying? So, and I could relate. And then I was so like intrigued by her and Bae's relationship because he's like my stepbrother. And at the time I lost him, I almost lost my little brother with him because both of them were attacked. And then for the murderer to actually walk out the courtroom with us.
Oh, so that's another. That one right there. I wouldn't be a candidate for the city council. But we're gonna make sure that we get some things in place that stops.
Yes, I love this sister.
So I also want to just briefly say that yesterday we was at City Hall and she's actually helping to sponsor a bill, and I want to just see if you can get like a minute or two to talk about that.
You know I talk fast.
I would like her to talk about this, and then we're going to figure out some ways that we can continue to support because it actually was past the second reader, but I'm going to let her explain it of ways that we can help.
Yeah, ways that we can help is like...
And just talk about the bill first, because I didn't explain it.
Okay. So basically, the bill that we push, thank God, shout out to the ACLU, shout out to Not Without Black Women, shout out to Runners for Justice and the West Coalition. We basically all got together on this real important issue. And basically, it's called, the gag order is basically about hush money. And what happens is when your loved one is murdered and you're so traumatized, you don't want to go through and you'll just settle out. You're not trying to hush. You just don't want to go forward because it's too traumatizing. But what the city of Baltimore does is use that, and they'll put your money in place and say, well, look, we giving you this money so you can't say nothing about your loved ones. If you do, we'll take it back. Type of thing, and it's horrible. So we're like, and they did a young lady named Ashley like that, and they took her money back. They told her she couldn't talk to the media, but she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to a troll online and say, oh, like she got a lottery ticket type of thing, and she checked them like, no, I was brutalized by the police. They came there, and then they took half of her settlement. And thank God, diligently, the ACLU has been fighting hard for this sister, and we're fighting hard for all of our sisters and brothers because it's not right. I had to even opt out in my case. Like with my brother case, I had to take my name off because I'm like, hold up, y'all not gonna craft anything. Y'all need to craft this murder, silence. Silence, kill all this violence. You know what I mean? Daily community violence and police brutalizing us. Kill all that. You know, craft that language. Don't craft me. I'm gonna talk about it. So. There you go.
Listen, I just want to say, if anybody don't know the full story, please, I just say Google it. But there is an article, and yes, she did refuse that settlement just so she can continue to speak out and get full justice for her brother, and that is to be acknowledged. I want to, as I come to an end, this is really, really good. As I stated again, thank you, Mark, for coming on the show. I do notice you had something you wanted to share.
So, if anybody wants to support A Few Good Men, we are in need of funds. I am not seeking out any government grants currently. So we are selling our black 365 calendars here.
Nice.
Hold on, pass it on down. And there's a brother out in California by the name of Jamal. Pardon me, I can't remember your last name right now, but this is his 11th annual Black 365 calendar. Each month highlights a different African American with a short biographical statement, and each day of the month gives you a different fact about a different African American to celebrate our history, not just the shortest month of the year, but every single day. Uplift our kids, man, any way we can. So the calendars are on sale, $15. You can contact me on Instagram, AFGM_Baltimore.
Really nice.
We'll share that also in the group.
Absolutely.
So that's the way to contact you in general.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you say it one more time, slower?
AFGM_Baltimore. That's the way to contact me.
Right, and then how would the viewers be able to contact you if they?
Yeah, so they can because I be getting so many death threats and all types.
Yeah,
of
we're
food.
talking about that. It's a lot
I just had a state trooper knock literally on my door, and I don't even live in the hood. I got a detached homeowner just to ask me did I see any drugs and guns in the house that's being remodeled next door to me, like foolishness. So anyway, but they can reach me at Miss Tawanda. That's MISSTAWANDA 17 at yahoo.com, or they can reach me on my brother page, Justice for Tyrone West, or my page, Tawanda Jones, inbox me or something like that.
So I want to just say that we want to continue to uplift both that are in the community, boots on the ground. It's a lot of obstacles that can happen and face with, so keep going. I'm also asking for, just prayers and thoughts as Tawanda moves forward, because she's moving forward bravely, and she is getting threats. So we want to make sure that we continue to cover our sister.
Yes.
As I stated as a close, this is my long 5 minutes. I think that's just like Don McKay with his 60 seconds. Wait a minute, my phone has 2 minutes, but no, I'm going to end it. But I do want to remind everybody that September 25th, it is the National Night of Remembrance for Murder Victims. We will be at Cold Spring and Loch Raven at 6 p.m. We will be calling out every victim name for the 2019. We will also be doing a video memorial. We usually do it inside, and this year, I think God is pushing me to move outside the walls. Also, today was a phenomenal time. I want to just shout out WOLB 1010 for allowing me to be interviewed to talk about my candidacy for Baltimore City Council. Also, the last thing I want to say is that the 19th of this month, Thursday. Don't get my days. September the 19th. This is a long day. September the 19th, I'm holding my second fundraiser event. It's going to be at Full Tilt. It's going to be in the heart of 4th District, and I hope to get everyone's support. If you need any further information, the information is on the video. It's www.angiewanda.com. As always, we want to thank our producer, the best producer in town. Yay. Hey, Diamond K in the building, and and Nick in the mic. Yes, thank my co-host Tasha. We just are so thrilled to continue to have great people on each and every Tuesday. As you can see, we have some phenomenal guests. We may have to amp it up to have 2 at a time going forward, but this is our first time, and thank you for bearing with us. Again, thank you for tuning in each and every Tuesday. We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. God bless you.
Thank you.